Humongous on the road win for Auburn at Georgia. Your final score 97-76. The Tigers send the Dogs with their tails between their legs. Well, I would say send them home, but they were home, did it on their home court. Let's talk about it. The score, the storylines, and the stats all coming up right now. War Eagle Auburn family, and of course, a special War Eagle, and welcome to our E2C network family. Thank you so much for joining us, however, you got here and being part of this stream, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, if you're watching live on the replay, however, whenever. Thank you so much for being here and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. What we have on tap for you today in this live stream is our reaction show to Auburn versus Georgia, part one. Round two coming up, well, I'd say a little bit later in the season, but just a few games away. But round one goes to the Tigers in Athens. Some big storylines to talk around this game. There's a lot to discuss that I'm really excited to get into with a lot of you this evening. I'm sure there's a lot of excitement from what we just saw. The Tigers facing a little bit of adversity, but asserting themselves on the road to get a big victory against the Georgia Bulldogs, a rival no less, 97-76, nearly eclipsing the century mark in points on the road on their home court. So all of that's on the table. We want to talk about team stats, individual stats, players of the game, all that good stuff. But we'd love you to start the show for us by making sure that you smash the like button. A huge help for us if you can do that, no matter where you're watching, whenever you're watching, do that for us. And of course, let us know that you're here. Let us know that you're here by saying War Eagle, where you're watching from, all that stuff. We just want to be able to say hello to you and know who we're spending some time with tonight. So a lot of familiar faces already checking in. We got Kevin, WT, Thomas, another Kevin, Neil, Chris, Devin, Noah. I feel like I'm just running through everybody now. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and hanging out with us tonight. I already see plenty of you all throwing out your player of the game. I'll hold it for just a second. I think it's pretty obvious who that's going to be. A lot of people giving props to someone that may be known as him tonight, or CB him, if you like that. Neil is also throwing in the double whammy tonight for everybody. Auburn wins and Bama loses in pretty embarrassing fashion, mind you. And yeah, it's been a good day to be an Auburn Tiger, especially when it comes to Auburn basketball. Chris bringing up a big storyline early here, and I think this is, yes, one of those that's worthy of talking about. There's been a lot of discussion and speculation about Aiden Holloway and his trajectory this year. A lot of hype, a lot of phenom-looking talent coming in. First game or so kind of showed that, but since then been very inconsistent. Tonight, it's a complete 180 of what we've seen a lot of the midpoint of the season. Aiden Holloway has himself a night, especially from the three-point arc. I mean, he does a great job out there, even banked one in from the three-point arc. So we'll look at his stat line, but I'm glad that you brought that up already. As much criticism and critique as he's been receiving, and in some ways rightfully so, over the last several weeks and month or two, it was nice to see him really get one tonight and be able to show out a little bit, remind everybody that, hey, this kid, he's pretty dang good too. Just because he's taking a little bit slower to get accustomed to the game doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to work out in the long term. I think you saw again tonight why he was such a highly coveted player, a McDonald's All-American coming out of high school. So we'll obviously look at his stats in just a little bit. Devin pointed out at the end of the game, the thing that just makes everything better. Dylan Cardwell, Mr. 5 spot, getting a three-pointer. Big man three-pointer. It's kind of like a fat man touchdown when a lineman picks up a fumble and runs it in for a touchdown, or some weird scenario like that. That just makes your heart really happy when that happens. And this is a much different scenario with Janai making three-pointers, which he did tonight. Remember that too. He's a threat to do that. But let's just be honest, Dylan, first of all, that's not his game, nor should a big man typically be taking those shots. He does tonight. It embarrasses his home state where he's from as well. People forget that he's from Georgia as well. That three-pointer was just absolutely amazing. Devin's asking who started in the place of Jalen. Another big storyline tonight that I want to start off by talking about with. it was not just who replaced Jalen tonight. The starting lineup was really changed up. And frankly, as the game started, I kind of was like, this is interesting with what I'm seeing here. But I kind of liked the way things were mixed and matched a little bit today. Aiden Holloway, if I'm incorrect, please correct me. Aiden Holloway gets to start at point guard. CBM comes in, Chaney Johnson, Janai Broom, and who's the fourth one? I am blanking hardcore right now because someone came in for Chris Moore, essentially. Y'all help me. Somebody remind me who it was. But it was a big change up. Basically, it was Janai and who am I forgetting? Janie Johnson. God, this is really going to bother me now. Did anybody else figure it out? Nobody else has written it in there yet. But anyway, I would say, to answer your question, Devin, who replaced Jalen tonight? It'd be Chaney Johnson. And Chaney had a pretty good night too. I thought we saw him assert himself a lot tonight in that position. And one of the things that we posted on social media was tonight presents an opportunity for a lot of players, even with just one player being out, to seize moments and make a name for themselves tonight. And I think not just one, not just Chaney, who took the position of Jalen effectively tonight, but also several others took opportunities to really make a name for themselves tonight, which was really nice to see. CBM said, rest tonight, Jalen. I'm going to put on a show for you. Yes, he absolutely did. Was starting Aiden planned today? I think my understanding, Chris, is that it was. Bruce, in his latest press conference leading up to this, and maybe a couple of press conferences, said that he was going to have to play with the lineup a little bit to see what works and what doesn't, effectively planning for Jalen to be out for a little while. And he talked about, size differences and who plays bigger or smaller than maybe you think that they do, and how all those work together. And you would think maybe we got a little bit too bigger because Chaney's a little bit larger than Jalen with him coming in. But you notice that Trey's a bigger point guard than Aiden, and we swapped Aiden in to move Trey to that second platoon. So there's a little bit more size over there with the second platoon coming in. And it's not as effectively the first and second platoon that we normally have because we're missing Jalen, and Lior gets, sparing minutes at most. But you saw a lot of that. I think it was very intentional who was moved around and where, not necessarily because of production, but because of needs at certain spots and coming in at certain points in the game. I think I said that in a coherent way, but hopefully it made sense. It's always great to see the fat people score. I think they appreciate the love as well. Let's see. What else are you guys talking about? Replacement by committee. Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at this tonight. And one of the big things that is brought up when someone goes down is who's going to step up. And usually you just think of that one player who's going to fill that role, who's going to fill that need. But when everybody steps up, that's an incredible thing to see. Yeah, we'll talk about postseason stuff and outlook here in just a little bit at the end of the show. 8 guys shot 500 or better. Yes, absolutely. Chris, I wondered this as well. Chris Moore tonight does not start and only plays. Where's his playing time at? I just saw it and it's escaped me now at this point. Chris Moore only plays 3 minutes tonight. I don't know. Maybe that'll be asked at the press conference, and we can all find that out. It's a little intriguing. He goes from starting to playing less than 3 minutes. I know his offensive production hasn't been there, but I think he does a lot of good things in terms of getting the game started off on a good note with that first platoon in. So it was interesting to see the swap, not just a swap, but losing a lot of his minutes. So I wonder if there isn't a little bit of illness or something there, but I do think maybe he would have gone to that second platoon with us switching the lineups and rotations around with Jalen out. Because again, it gives you a little bit more size. Think about it this way. You've got Trey, Chris, Katie's a little bit smaller. So your guards are going to be a little bit bigger with Trey there and Chris Moore there. Dylan's coming in on that side too. So it just gives you a little bit more size with that second platoon if you bring someone like Chris Moore in, as opposed to starting him tonight. But only 3 minutes. That's very intriguing. All right. I think we've caught up on the initial comments and things like that. Another storyline before we go to the stats I want to talk about. Mike White has had a time and a good time against Bruce Pearl, especially at home. I think y'all saw the stat this evening on the TV where he was undefeated, I think, at home or something of that nature at Florida and at Georgia against Auburn / Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl has not had a lot of great success at home, especially against him, their home. It was nice to see that get not rectified, because there's still a long way to go to correct that trend, but to not let that continue to be the storyline, such as losing at Florida, losing at Kentucky. To see it done this way and done in such a fine fashion, especially with a lot of our guys being from Georgia, Katie, Aiden, I believe. No, is Aiden from Georgia? But Dylan, this one met a lot of them tonight. Brent wants to bring up, how about the lineup with Broom and Cardwell on the floor? Yeah, and I think Bruce does that intentionally tonight because he's going to have to do that against some of these bigger teams, Tennessee coming up right away, to see how it works. The one thing that's scary for me, and we saw that tonight, is if they're both in there at the same time, and you could say, well, they'll get fouls no matter what, if they're together or not, but you have them in there at the same time. That's a higher propensity for the both of them. Both are 2-5s to get fouls a little bit quicker, if they're playing both aggressively against some larger teams. So it's a little bit scary for me. I'm not saying it's wrong in any way, but I know a lot of you are excited about seeing Dylan and Janai on the floor together tonight because a lot of you have asked to see that. So you got what you asked for. For Bizarre, the different ways. Much respect for Chad for the game he put on, finding out his high school coach passed. Oh, is that real? I didn't know that was part of the storyline. If they were talking about that on the game tonight, I missed that completely. Blew right past that. All right. We can keep talking about storylines and things from this game, but let's focus on some stats now. We'll continue to take comments and questions as appropriate. Who's your player of the game? Is it anybody? I think it was Thomas earlier who said, who is the player of the game? Chad Baker-Mazar, and why is it him, essentially? Is anybody else want to make a case tonight for a player of the game? Chad Baker-Mazar, 25 points, 8 for 12 from the field, 2 for 3 from the three-point land, 100%, 7 for 7 tonight, the best out of anybody and the most out of anybody from the free throw line. 5 rebounds, 4 assists, only 3 personal fouls, no turnovers in 27 minutes of play, which is tied for most alongside Aiden Holloway in playing time tonight. That is quite an incredible stat line, especially for him, who's been fighting for more playing time and has probably earned that, and opportunity has presented itself. I love to have discussions and talk about maybe it's somebody else's opportunity to be player of the game. I don't know that you can make a better case than what Chad presented tonight to be the player of the game. Chaney is mine, Devin says, just for the way he stepped up, but I also could agree with CBM. I think when you talk about players of the game, it's almost like you should give a statistic one, because that's what's easy to make the case off of, but then you should give the non-statistical player of the game, who meant the most. And a lot of times there's this stat, and I don't usually talk about this one because there's just a lot of minutia there. If you're in the plus minus column, how much you contribute as a team. You can see these on some sites. I bet Chaney has a good plus minus. So yes, you could say the clear player of the game, statistically especially, is Chad Baker-Mazar. But for what Chaney did, not just stepping up and filling a role for Jalen being out, but doing some good things with it, he deserves some credit tonight as well. Let's look at what Chaney Johnson did overall. 16 points for him tonight, 6 for 9 from the field. I forgot that he made a three-pointer, 1 for 3, 3 for 4 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 3 personal fouls, 26 minutes of play tonight. So Really nice to see from him. Your other leading scorers tonight are going to be also Janai Broom with 16 points. He gets a double-double with 13 rebounds. Aiden Holloway with 15. Denver Jones and Katie Johnson have decent nights with 8 points apiece. Leo Berman with 4. He had a pretty good drive too tonight. I want to give him some credit. Dylan Cardwell with 5. A nice 3-pointer at the end there. And an alley-oop as well. Trey and Chris are not able to score tonight. It was interesting to see Trey not get as much time tonight. And I got to think that's really only because Bruce gave Aiden the opportunity to flourish like he was. To me, that's kind of what I see. This is not necessarily Trey did anything wrong or he was sick or anything like that. I think it was just, hey, this kid's needed a game like this. Let him stay in and ride this wave. And hopefully it carries over for the rest of the season. That's how I choose to look at it, at least. Maybe I'm wrong. Brent says Aiden is mine, plus 24 and got out of his slump. I think you can make a case for him being a player of the game too. But unfortunately, CB him is the player of the game tonight. Katie played well, and we talked about this on Wednesday night live stream this week. Was it Wednesday night? Yes. About the Georgia game, the significance behind it. It's a rivalry game. All that stuff's there, right? We as fans understand the significance of this. But KD loves playing in the state of Georgia. He should see go look at his statistics at the Holiday Hoopsgiving Classic in Atlanta every year, and it's just some of his best games. Typically, he plays really well, statistically or otherwise, at Georgia, even if we don't win. KD tonight doesn't wow you on the stat sheets, 8 points, but he does some pretty big things in some pretty big moments. He loves playing in his home state. So again, give him credit where credit is due too. Everybody is pumped about this road win. Love to see it. Love to see it. CBM is the player of the game with his dominating early, continue to play well throughout the game. He was amazing tonight. Couldn't have said it better. Really, really good. Oh, here we go. WT, Broom, CBM, Cheney, Denver. How did I forget Denver? Denver nailed some pretty decent shots tonight too. It was, and I didn't even say his stats, I don't think. Yeah, 8 points tonight. So he should have had 9 points, but his foot was on the line for that last 3-pointer that he made. We really had some guys make some clutch plays and shots, especially when Georgia made their run. Here's what I love about tonight. I love that this team asserted themselves early, faced some adversity, a Georgia team that's not terrible like they've been the last couple of years, has got some talent, made a run back in towards Auburn on their home court, and Auburn took that hit on the chin, got back up, and pushed forward and just made them look silly at times by the end of this game. That is why this Auburn basketball team is a good basketball team. Have they had their up and down times? Yes, and they're going to have some more. Hopefully it doesn't happen in the NCAA tournament, but this is a good basketball team, guys. Jalen is a huge part of that, but a good basketball team does what they just did on the road tonight, even without their big player. So keep that in mind when we face adversity down the line. Wasn't this a wire-to-wire game? What do you mean? No, I'm not picking up what you're throwing down there. Devin said, I love that 3 that KD made after his air ball, and he just stared down the student section. His antics are so fun. He just loves playing in Georgia, and it's fun to watch. Okay, we have talked about team stats, but let me also look at something here too. Personal fouls, 24 for Auburn and 17 for Georgia. So if you're a Georgia fan somehow checking in here, probably not. Coming to make excuses, you guys had a lot more personal fouls. Now, I'm trying to focus on that more to really look and see, because that's kind of the common complaint a lot of times is, oh, the refs won it for you. And a lot of times, if you actually look at the numbers, that storyline doesn't really marry up. All right, folks, team stats. Team stats. Look at this. Look at this beautiful, mostly. There's one I'm not happy about. Mostly shooting statistics. 62% field goal percentage for Auburn. Now, Georgia with 44% is pretty decent too, but 62% for Auburn tonight. 3-point arc, 54%, 14 of 26. Free throws leaves a little bit to be desired. 69%, 11 for 16. Not happy about that, but I will take it when you shoot 62% from the field. And I saw Auburn really do a good job around the basket when we get down to that stat line. Let's see if that my memory serves me correctly. And I think that's why you saw a lot of the higher percentage by the end of the game shootings, because they took some higher percentage shots. Wire to wire, never trailed. Thank you. I knew it was something simple like that, Chris. I do not think we trailed, and I can confirm that. Lead changes, 0. Times tied for 1 minute, 27 seconds. So I'm betting that was we were tied 3 times. So at the very beginning of the game, but we never trailed. So yes, you are correct. Wire to wire, big old rival victory for Auburn tonight. What are the odds we see Pat Adams again? I can't decide whether I like Pat Adams as a ref or not tonight, but they certainly wanted to make their presence known tonight. Double technicals twice. Granted, it was chippy, and I probably would have done the same thing in their shoes, but you just hate for refs to affect the flow of the game, right? That's all it is. Yeah, the first half especially was really, really, really bad. Let's see, what else haven't we talked about that you guys are bringing up? Let's look at the team stats again. What we always focus on here, the big 3: free throws, turnovers, and rebounds. Auburn tonight does not win in free throw percentage, 69%. They're 81%. Turnovers, Auburn commits more, 9 to Georgia 6. Very low turnovers tonight. Well, low on the lower end, especially for Georgia. And then rebounds tonight. Auburn does win here 33-24. Now, why do I focus on these? These usually determine some other statistics in the game. When I see this and I see that Auburn lost 2 of those, it's not that those shouldn't be focused on anymore. Those are just, it's not even an anomaly is the right word. There just wasn't a lot of differential between those big ones to make that big of a difference. Not even the one that we won. Total rebounds, 33 for us, 24 for Georgia tonight. So we only win one of the categories, but usually that means some other statistics made the bigger deal. And I think we've already talked about it, but let's keep looking here. Bench points tonight, pretty even, 17-16 Auburn's favor. Points in the paint, even, 38-36 Auburn. At times tonight, there were moments I felt like Georgia played very similar to the way we do. And it's kind of reflected in some of the stats that you're seeing here. Fast break points tonight, 17 for Auburn, 3 for Georgia. And pretty, not even, but comparable defensive statistics. 16 assists for Auburn, only 5 for Georgia. So honestly, I know it's easy to focus on that 62% field goal percentage for Auburn today. It's probably a big part of their win. But I don't think you should ignore this 17-3 differential, Auburn to Georgia, in the fast break category. This is Auburn on the road dominating a home team in fast breaks. That shouldn't happen. If you lose it at home, that's fine, but you shouldn't have been dominated like that. But also assist, Auburn sharing the ball really well tonight, and I saw that ball zipping around the arc a lot tonight. Saw a lot of people make passes that they may not make in the typical heat of the moment in a rivalry game where they want to make a statement, and they did, and it led to some great shots. So sharing the ball, playing as a team is a big factor tonight. So team stats right there. What else? What else haven't we talked about? What do we need to talk about? Don't miss your opportunity to get a topic in. I love how excited the bench gets when people make big shots. They went nuts when Dylan Cardwell hit his 3, because you just don't see that often, right? I'd lose my mind. I did lose my mind. If I was in the middle of getting a show prepped, probably would have jumped up right here and just lost my mind. WT thinks that the double technicals called were to send a message that the refs were not going to let this game turn into a fighting match. Can't say I disagree. don't disagree with the need for the refs to keep things in check. What I have a problem with is when they are getting so frequent with their whistles that it affects the flow of the game. And I say that as an Auburn fan, but I say that for the benefit of Georgia or whoever we're playing too. If we're playing Alabama, it just messes with the natural flow of the game and really creates opportunities to question the legitimacy of a win or loss. So I think that's where most people are kind of frustrated tonight. They would have rather seen a cleaner called game. Emotions were not in check. They needed to be kept in check. And it's tough. It really is. Georgia's not a bad team. Georgia's defense was not bad tonight. Several times we had to go to last second shots. I'm going to give Mike White credit. He left a program in Florida where it was kind of odd that he shifted over to Georgia, but he continues to show that he can win and produce good talent, bring in good talent, and put good talent on the floor in a cohesive way wherever he goes. So Georgia is not a program that you want to sleep on for the foreseeable future. All right. We have talked about individual stats, team stats, storylines, all that stuff. If there is not a question, or if there is a question, a storyline, anything that you'd like to talk about around this game, get it in now. Let me give you a few reminders, and then we're going to talk about what's coming up next. The reminders that I have for you are our next live streams that we have planned for you tomorrow night. Don't miss it. It's always a good time. The Auburn Experience, the main show of everything that we do across the E2C network, the main podcast, video, audio, otherwise. Me and Austin here, episode 68. We'll be talking about this. Aubie's statue, many of other really cool things in the Auburn Experience. On Tuesday evening, we will have another baseball live stream, and I hope you guys enjoyed that format that we did. We even released an audio version of that later in the week. Hope you guys can join us after the Samford game to talk about the Jacks Baseball Classic, which is going really well so far, and the UConn series look ahead. If you like reaction shows, Auburn versus Tennessee Wednesday night. No live call-in show because we'll all be focused on that game during our normal time. It's the last time that conflict should happen this season. So that is your scheduled live streams. What else is on y'all's minds tonight? Whether it's about what we just saw, what's coming up soon for this basketball team. Let me give you guys a look ahead. Tennessee is a huge, huge game for us. It's a huge game for us to determine how good this team can be with or without Jalen Williams. This is the cream of the crop of the SEC. I'm not saying that just to disparage Alabama as much as I love doing that. I know they're at the top right now, but I think top to bottom, the most complete team in the SEC is Tennessee. They are big. They match us in size, in scoring ability. They have the, current prospective SEC player of the year. As much as I want it to be Janai, it looks like it's going to be that Tennessee guy. I think if Auburn can go on the road and beat Tennessee with that talent, with what adversity they have, not having Jalen, having to switch everything else around, boy, it's going to be hard not to get super hyped up for the rest of the end of the season. It's not an end all be all, a make or break point. If you lose at Tennessee, folks, it's at Tennessee, but this could be a really huge momentum builder for Auburn if they can get that. Not to say that this win's not important. The next couple of games aren't important. How you finish is very important, but this is that last humongous hurdle and opportunity that's available for Auburn to solidify themselves. And I'm not saying what happens after that point may not alter it, but this will give you a lot of security, seeding in the SEC tournament, the NCAA tournament, what people think about you as a team, no matter what happens the rest of the season, but in regards to what happens the rest of the season. So don't mean to build that one up, but I think this, I do mind to build it up. It is a humongous deal, folks. So I'm excited for it. And I know most of you all are too as well. Chris says beating UT at Knoxville with Jalen was going to be a big ask. Not having him will make it tougher, which makes this even a bigger deal if they do it without him. It shows that you are a good team, even when you're missing one of your big pieces. And I know we're all excited about this game, this upcoming game, then the next couple as well, where Auburn's going to fall in all the rankings. You know, it's interesting. The SEC now only feels like, at least I think it was Joe Lenardi or somebody said, now only 7 teams are going to get in. I think with the way we're beating each other up, that's probably the case. But all that to be said, it all gets figured out on the basketball court, and that's the great thing. Speculation, rankings, they don't really matter. All that matters is what you do on the court. But I would imagine this impressive win for us at Georgia will help us, depending upon how everything shakes out with everybody else's games and perceptions of everybody else playing in college basketball. So final thoughts, questions, comments, derogatory rebuttals, get them in now. We appreciate you guys being here. If you haven't, smash that like button. It is a huge help for us. Follow us here on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, hit the like button, the follow button. All of that is a huge help, and we want to continue to grow and build this family within the Auburn family. We appreciate you all helping us do that. So final thoughts, questions, comments. Texas A&M currently tied with Tennessee. Texas A&M is a dangerous team. We saw that firsthand. We still beat them pretty bad. But I will never count out Buzz Williams. WT says not having Okeke against UK in the tourney seemed impossible. Other players stepped up. That's what this team needs to do. We can beat UT, but it will be difficult. I agree. And if this team can channel whatever that team channeled in the Elite Eight, it'll be something special. Tough, monumental task ahead of us. Chris says we will move up to a projected number 3 seed by Tuesday. Potentially. I think that potential is there. It really just depends on how everything else shakes out. You'll probably see Alabama slide back to 4 with us. Kentucky's going to move up a little bit. I forget where they're at. Were they like a 5 seed or something like that? Or a 6 seed? Maybe that offers us the opportunity to slide up to a number 2 slot. But the great thing is it doesn't matter because we still got plenty of basketball left to play. Any word on if Austin is going to Knoxville? I will restrict him. You can ask him tomorrow night on the Auburn Experience podcast. I will restrict him from going to Knoxville. It's not in the cards for him. He just doesn't know it yet. Just remember the last time Kentucky beat us at home, we went to the Final Four. You just never know. There you go. Getting everybody's hopes irrationally up, but I love it. I love it all the same. All right, folks. Great show. Great reaction stream. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. It's always a joy to talk to you, especially after moments, games, and times like this. And we appreciate you being here and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Till I talk to you again, War Eagle.